All right, everybody, what is up? We are back here at the War Room. I'm your host, Keith Corbliss, along with my awesome co-host, as always, JMO, aka or John Moynihan, aka JMO.
Yeah, that's me. What's up, dude?
And we got an awesome guest on today. He's from Sudbury, Massachusetts. He goes to Wake Forest University. In the shortened 2020 season, he had a 3.22 ERA with 43 strikeouts in just 22.1 innings. That also gave him a 17.3 strikeouts per nine, which was sixth in the nation and a
Woo!
school record at Wake Forest. Jeez. And according to MLB.com, he is ranked the 33rd ranked prospect in the 2021 MLB draft and has clocked his fastball as high as 99 miles per hour. Ryan Cusick. What's up, Ryan?
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
No problem. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. What have you been up to?
Honestly, I've just been getting in mid-season form. I've been down at Wake Forest, working out every day and working on the field at Wake, and just getting ready for the season.
Nice. We heard your 14-hour car ride was very pleasant.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that, but
Yeah. So we'll kind of just get right into it a little bit. So you're saying, you're in year 3 now going into Wake Forest. You were a 40th round draft pick out of high school. A lot of scouts, said that you flashed that 1 to 3 round potential that you have right now. What was kind of the reason that you chose to go to Wake Forest instead of going straight out of the draft to, you know, right out of high school?
honestly, it was a tough decision. Yeah, I felt like I was ready out of high school, but what I tell a lot of people is like I wanted to play pro baseball out of high school, and I kind of am playing pro baseball out of high school because I took a professional approach towards my college career, and I'm doing a lot of the same things that I would be in pro ball. Wake Forest was just a great opportunity with a lot of access to facilities like they have in pro ball, and honestly, in a lot of places, better than they have in pro ball. So, being able to be down there in the pitching lab and be surrounded by great coaches and other great players who are going to move on to play in the big leagues and play professional baseball. It was an awesome experience, and just a great choice for me to go to Wake.
It seems like it has turned out to be the right choice looking back on it after, 2.5, 3 years of being there. And that's kind of a good point that you mentioned because, I feel like when a lot of people, you see like these high school guys that choose to go to college, even though they could still get drafted at, decently high out of high school. And I remember specifically, you guys know like who like Jack Leiter was? Like he's gonna
Yeah,
be one of the top guys in this year's draft. They were saying, because I worked over in at Vanderbilt, so I was able to talk to a few people, and they were saying how his team kind of said that, you know what, why don't you go to a really good school like Vandy and prep yourself for, go live in, a nicer area instead of like doing the minor league grind at 18 where you have so much to learn. So it's kind of a good point that you make that it's a lot harder said than done to go straight from the draft.
yeah, absolutely. I feel like those are the guys that end up really, raising their stock over those 3 years when they take that professional approach to college baseball. And
No doubt.
yeah, it's honestly been great and definitely the right choice.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And speaking on raising your stock, I mean, we touched on it too when we were doing your introduction. 43 Ks in 22 and a third innings. That's
Wild.
just absolute dominance. And we've seen the fastball grow on you too, anywhere from 90 now all the way clocked up to 99. When you're looking at your fastball, is that your pitch when you're going to attack hitters? And have you been able to develop that plus pitch to show off that fastball and continue your stamina late in the game?
Yeah, so fastball is my pitch. Like it's a money maker. It's what I've been throwing ever since I picked up a baseball, and so that's a pitch that I love to throw, and I take a lot of pride in throwing. And honestly, that pitch has always been there, and it's just gotten better and better. The big thing for me over the past couple of years is just developing that breaking ball and changeup along with it. And it, believe it or not, it just makes my fastball faster. When guys, it's already fast when guys are just trying to time it up and know that I'm throwing fastballs. But when I can break off a breaking ball that like tunnels with the fastball, or a changeup that slips under the barrel, like that's what makes it even look faster and tougher for hitters to hit. So having that three pitch mix is really been the game changer for me to develop over the past few years.
I'm kind of curious on this. So you're a pretty tall guy, right? You're about 6'6", right?
Right.
How has that been in terms of developing that plus fastball? Because what a lot of people I feel like don't realize is that, you have like the guys that are probably like 6'1", 6'2", right? Very like compact. So that it makes
Right.
their mechanics a little not easier per se, but um more focused on being able to hone in on that. And while you're a little like
Absolutely.
the taller guys tend to there's so many more moving pieces because you're just so much longer.
Yeah, right. We call it like the long levers. Like I've got a pretty big wingspan, and
Yeah.
it makes it tough. Like the core strength you got to have to be able to move those pieces where you want them. It's something that I just kind of had to develop, and it was a little bit of a learning curve. You know, in high school, I probably wasn't throwing as many strikes as some more compact guys because I just wasn't as strong, and that's kind of been a big thing for me, and that's why it's kind of helped over the last few years. It seems like I'm just as I'm growing more into my body and putting on a little bit more weight each year. It seems like those things are getting more refined, and my control is a lot more honed in. And you know, the fastball is a blessing, and it's a big part of it is why is because I'm 6'6" and a big body. But it was a little bit of a learning curve to kind of rein that into the strike zone.
Right, yeah, especially, like, going through, like, especially in, like, high school, I'm sure you had, like did you have, like, a massive growth spurt?
Yeah, so I shot up there pretty quick. I think feet in like eighth. So I felt like I was like 6 feet in eighth grade, and I was just a bean pole. Like I was like 100. I was like 6'4", 150 pounds.
Wow.
Going into my sophomore year. Yeah, there's a picture that I'll show you guys later, but it's like it's scary. Like I do not look healthy, but over like the next 18 months, I put on 80 pounds and got to 230. And
There you go.
I was just eating night and day. I'd be like waking up in the middle of the night, just eating PB&Js and just anything to put on that weight. And it worked for me. And you know, the thing everyone says is mass equals gas. And as I put on the weight, you know, the velo shot up, and that was a big part of my development. Just going from that skinny little kid to kind of a bigger, thicker guy, you know?
It's funny that you mentioned that because that's what I was gonna say after. I was like, a lot of guys we've talked with, especially pitchers, they said that one of the biggest things for them in terms of velo growth was, mass equals gas. And in particular, Bryce Jarvis, who was a 2020 first round draft pick with the D-backs, we talked to him. He said that. He said that was the biggest thing for me. Is
Right.
everyone all pitchers need to know that mass equals gas. And that's how you get the extra tick on the fastball up.
100%.
And Ryan, when analytics have made their way into the game, and maybe to a point, maybe it's a little much, but at Wake Forest, you guys look into those analytics. Like I was reading an article about you, and it touched on movement down the mound and how far you can get down the mound. And it compared you to Emerson Hancock, who's big like you, 6'6", but can get down the mound and makes it almost 7 feet down the mound, which is something that for whatever reason a lot of MLB teams take into account because it gets that late life on the fastball too. Is
Right.
that something that you guys worked on or like looked at Wake Forest as well for your starting pitchers?
To be honest, those kind of like intangibles, getting into that position of having like a late extension, like those things really can't be taught. It's more like that was just individual to me as a pitcher. And you're right, I am 6'6", but I get so far down the mound with like a 7'2" extension that I release it at only 5'5", which is a very low release point for a guy my size. So when I'm pitching up in the zone, it's almost like appearing like the fastball's rising up to a hitter, right? So that's what helps with my deception. Honestly, it's something that is just kind of who I am, and that's how I was, I guess, taught to throw when I was a young kid. But the thing that we do at Wake Forest is we can identify like those things as being deceptive and knowing that that's your strength and how to use those to our advantage. So being a guy with a low release, we knew that, hey, if I pitch up in the zone, I'm gonna get a lot of swings and misses because it appears like it's rising. And like my freshman year, I wasn't having too much success when I was only throwing two seams down in the zone, and I was getting hit a little bit. And it was and we started to look into it and be like, hey, well, this probably makes sense. I need to pitch up higher in the zone instead of two seams. I got to throw four seams, and that's what we were able to look through. Whether it's the pitching lab at Wake with the biomechanics or just watching video and talking to the coaches that we have, like Coach Hendricks, who's done a great job with all of our pitchers. We're able to identify like, hey, these are like if you throw pitches in this spot, in this location, or in this way, this is what's gonna have you success. Have you have success because you're a unique guy, and that's kind of how we treat it. We don't really fit all of our pitchers to a mold. It's more like we don't try to have everyone have far extension. We just see what they're doing and seeing like how can we manipulate this a little bit to have it work to their advantage.
Yeah, and
Man,
I got another follow-up question to you. Sorry, Keith. Is like when you're talking about your rise in fastball and stuff, even in lives, did the hitters ever come up to you and it's like, hey, like something like looks kind of like interesting here. Maybe you should like go and take a look at this.
Yeah, I mean, when we face hitters in the off season, like I faced hitters this fall, and they're like, "Oh my god, like the ball's like looks like it's rising." So I definitely knew once I started pitching up in the zone, hitters would tell me like, "Yeah, your ball, like I think it's gonna hit my barrel," and then all of a sudden I look and it's in the catcher's mitt, and it went above my barrel. So I could definitely kind of with the data, I could kind of piece through like I could kind of piece together the data and like what they were saying and saying like, "Hey, this is probably what's happening." Like I do have a higher spin rate. And like a high induced vertical, like maybe they're right, and it is rising above their barrel. So it is kind of like it is kind of cool because a lot of my buddies at Wake are hitters, and they can kind of give me feedback, and they're smart kids too, so they're able to kind of analyze their at bats and like analyze me as from like their perspective as a hitter, which is pretty cool. So we can kind of work together.
that's awesome. So one of the things that you're talking about obviously is the rising fastball, but another thing that I was reading based on like the scouting reports and things of that nature is that you kind of have a sinking changeup.
Right. So the changeup is something that has kind of been married by me once I went into quarantine. I really didn't have a changeup until quarantine, but I finally had the time to kind of go back to the blueprint and really design the pitch for how it would fit my repertoire. So I have a high rising fastball. So it doesn't make sense to have a changeup with a ton of run because I also have that breaking ball that has a lot of depth and not a whole lot of horizontal movement. So in order to get that third pitch that fits in there, it really makes sense to have um, horizontal but also depth. So that depth is the big key to me for me, and it's something that hasn't really come easy. That changeup, it's something that I didn't really throw in high school, and it's always been like my third pitch that I would just throw like once a game just to kind of like show me and
Mhm.
have guys have it in the back of their mind, even though they probably didn't even recognize it as a pitch. They thought it was just like maybe a crappy fastball or whatever. But yeah, it's a pitch that was always too hard and really straight. And over quarantine, I was working with my teammate Jared Schuster, who had the best changeup in the class last year and had a lot of success with it. So we were able to kind of play catch up here during quarantine in Mass, and he's a Mass guy, and we'd meet and just flip changeups together, and we'd help each other out with different little things. But just to be able to learn the changeup from some guys like him, and also a kid Mike Doherty, who's a pitcher at Northwestern. He has a great changeup, and he lives right in the town over from me here in Mass. So I was just kind of able to use those two guys and kind of develop that sinking changeup.
Awesome. And kind of, so you're saying that you developed this pitch right over quarantine.
Right.
Do you know, do you think that it's game ready to use on hitters yet? Or are you still trying to get that feel going into, the latter half of this winter as you approach your season?
Absolutely. It is a learning curve when you're learning a new pitch, right? Um, there's a big difference between throwing it just in a bullpen with no hitter in there and then actually getting in a game and being like, oh my God, like I can't hit this guy. Like if there's a righty in there, you can't hit him if it runs into you or slips off your fingers. So
Right.
it definitely is that process. You hit that the nail on the head. And that's why it was so great for me to play this summer. I was able to play in the Coastal Plains League down there, and I got 35 innings. I got like 25 regular season and like 10 exhibition innings, and to be able to kind of try out um, that changeup when I'm not in the ACC. It was really helpful towards me, and I basically, the first few starts, it wasn't too great. I might have thrown 1 out of 4 good ones, but, I kinda crawled, and then I walked to the random end of this huge sum and, like, some pressure situation, so that was a big confidence boost for me knowing that it's gonna be a weapon that I've that is battle tested in the games and I know is gonna be able to work, and, it's something that is definitely gonna come into play this season.
We were talking with like a bunch of guys about that and how they, work on developing that pitch. Cause it's always pretty fascinating to me personally. Cause it's like, you never threw this pitch, or maybe you did as a joke, having a catch with a buddy, but you never like, would throw it in game. And
Right.
a lot of them, just like yourself, has said that the summer is really important because the summer, while people are watching you, yes, but technically, like it's those are the ways that you figure out those pitches and develop them because they're technically, while the summer of course means something, but it's not like going into, ACC rival baseball games coming in, that next spring.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, um, at the end of the day, you are trying to get the hitters out, and it is
Of
like
course.
such a competition thing. But to be able to kind of play around with those things, and um, that's why it was so great to play. Honestly, I felt like nobody else in the country was going out and playing baseball, and just to be able to go out there and work on my pitches and be able to get hitters out and continue to have that competitive mindset. It was awesome because I wouldn't want to go into this season having not played baseball, competitive baseball in 12 months, right?
Yeah, exactly, for like months on end.
Yeah, right. So to be able to get down there and get like 9 starts was just awesome, and I felt huge for my development.
Yeah, that was the same thing that we spoke with Jonathan Cannon, kid out of Georgia, projected to go in this year's first round as well. But he was saying the same thing. He's like, "Yeah, man, we're trying to develop pitches, and I don't mind getting shelled in summer ball as long as it just doesn't happen in game competition. We're fine with that." So,
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I might be a little bit different on that. I'm a pretty harsh competitor. I'd be embarrassed if I get every time I get a hit off me in summer ball. So I don't know if I'm as laid back as that, but
It's good. It's a competitive mindset
it is.
every time going out.
yeah, right.
So one of the also things I want to talk about is so you have that rising fastball, you have the sinking changeup. So obviously they correlate well in terms of, vertical.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so with your off speed, so it says that you have a slider and a curveball that kind of mixes sometimes into a potential slurve. Are you gonna keep it? Are you aiming to keep 4 pitches, or are you gonna stick with the 3?
So it was kind of a transition. I threw a slider my freshman year, and I threw a lot of two seams that kind of sunk, so it made sense to have that slider that was like horizontal, and it was really just horizontal movement, not a ton of depth. But as I transitioned to that four seam that was rising up, it just made sense to have a breaking ball with more depth. So I kind of transitioned to a slurve last last spring, and that did a lot. That did really well for me, and I was still kind of working on feel for that during the summer. But when I came back this fall, we decided to take that next step and really develop a curveball. So right now, the slider's a great pitch for me, and I feel like it's something I'm definitely going to come back to. I could see myself in a year, maybe 3 years down the road, having that four pitch mix with maybe like a slider cutter type thing, like a hard breaking ball with a little bit of horizontal movement. But right now I'm focusing on replicating that spin direction of my curveball and just having that three pitch mix of a rising four seam, a curveball with a lot of depth, and then that sinking changeup.
That's what a lot of people say is that kind of, if you have like those 3 solid pitches you can, rely on in going at hitters, that the 4th one can come. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like for this season, I don't want to kind of spread myself too thin. I just rather go all in on developing that breaking on
Yeah,
that
definitely.
one curveball instead of trying to toy with the two average ones. I just rather go all in and just kind of wake up in the middle of the night thinking about that curveball instead of kind of thinking about the two, like sharing my time. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh, it also helps when you have a 99-mile-an-hour fastball that rises.
Yeah, that's true.
You just attack hitters.
Yeah, right?
Ryan, when you were kind of coming out of high school and obviously getting drafted in the 40th round, but you're the second ranked pitcher in Massachusetts in your class.
Right.
Was that when you kind of realized like, hey, this can be an actual thing, or was it well prior to that? Was it in Little League or somewhere else down the line?
Dude, I don't know. I mean, I think that I kind of realized once I got into high school that I definitely had a shot. I think it was probably the summer after my eighth grade year. I was playing, I was pitching really well, and I actually never played summer baseball up until that point. I was playing a lot of basketball, and I was kind of on the AAU circuit. And being up here in Boston, it's really tough to play baseball year round. I mean, I'm sure you know that. Being a Northeast guy. And honestly, that's when I started playing summer baseball, and I knew I loved the game, and I knew that it was going to be the sport that was for me all the time. But um, once I played that summer, I was like, okay, like I'm I'm really good at this. Like I think, and I love it day in and day out. I think this could be something that I do for a while, and kind of started the recruiting process my freshman summer. Um, with the colleges and all that. And then kind of as that thing grew and I started getting some big time offers, I realized, hey, like maybe I can play pro baseball, and if I'm getting these offers now, like I bet I can do something with this down the road. And obviously, like since I was like 4 years old, I always dreamt of playing on TV and you know playing with Big Poppy and all those Boston icons. But yeah, I think it just kind of clicked when I was in eighth or ninth grade. I realized like, hey, I'm actually I could do something with this if I work hard. And it ended up being right. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure that that is pretty cool. So we were talking earlier, right before we hopped on, that you had some meetings. So obviously, it seems like you have started your draft process coming up. What has it kind of been like for right now? And kind of what was it kind of like compared to the second time around?
Yeah. So the first time around was obviously a big jump into like a new world I wasn't familiar with, and
For sure.
I was able like after my junior year, I was able to play on some of these so-called like all-star teams where we go out to California for area code or East Coast Pro down in Tampa, and it was basically the Northeast guys, so like Pennsylvania up through Maine, and I'd meet all these different kids, and we go to these tryouts, and they'd select whatever 10 or so pitchers, eight or ten pitchers to fly down there and pitch in like a 5 game week, and we did that, and I started getting introduced to the MLB scouts who were the coaches of the teams. And they would and then that fall and winter they'd come and meet with me at my school, and being a prep school guy, it was just like one-on-one meetings with me and them, and sometimes one of their supervisors. But it was really just developing that relationship with like the area scouts and the regional guys and that have been in the region for a while. So that was awesome, getting to know them, and then they come and watch me in the spring, and like and they'd also they develop real relationships with you. You know, not just business relationships, but like give me some advice of what I need to work on and give me some feedback, and being able to get some of that feedback my senior year of high school was great and kind of helped me recognize and self-evaluate what I need to do in college to have a little bit more success and go where I want to go in the draft the second time around. So the second time around, it's been great meeting with some of the same guys, but a lot of new faces. And it's a little bit different. All those meetings were in person in high school, and obviously you can't do that now. So it's all on Zoom or on FaceTime, and just meeting with a few guys from an organization, sometimes up to 10 guys from an organization, and we just hop on for an hour and a half, and just talk about baseball, and they get to know me, and it's talking to the guys that are going to make the decisions in July. So it's pretty cool being able to talk to like scouting directors and GMs and all those top level guys, because I know that they're gonna be able to at the end of the day, they're gonna be the ones that are gonna submit my name card on in July. So it's been awesome to kind of hear what they have to say about me, kind of talk baseball about that with them, and kind of realize what I need to do in this upcoming spring.
Yeah, and Ryan, you seem like a pretty level-headed kid too. And we're talking to Benny Montgomery, a high school kid who's going through the same process that you're going through right now. And we kind of touched upon the whole meeting with teams and everything and how it's been really different. But I feel like, and he touched upon too, it's like sometimes, it's kind of just sitting there and talking baseball, like you mentioned. Other times it's mental coaches get on the phone and they just grill
Yeah,
you for like an hour and a half or whatever.
yeah.
It seems like you've enjoyed this whole process, which has been great for yourself. Is there like one phone call that sticks out, and you don't have to go into a whole lot of details about it, but like, or team or whatever, that you're like, wow, I really like could see myself going here.
Absolutely. Honestly, I think a lot of these teams are really invested into their players, and a lot of these teams have, especially at the, um, especially recently with the new age of baseball, they're getting really into these analytics and a lot of the things that we are getting into at Wake Forest as well. And the biomechanics lab is something unique at Wake Forest and something that all these teams aspire to have. And we have, I see pro teams coming through there to look at the lab to draw up a blueprint for themselves. So they're taking a ton of advice from our program as well. So being able to kind of learn from each other about the analytics and just kind of hear about how they analyze things has been great to hear and just cool from a different perspective. And a lot of these teams, the way that they approach their analytics and value it, I'm an analytical guy. I like numbers, and it just kind of makes sense to me. So there are definitely a few teams out there that kind of stuck out to me and saying like, hey, like I feel like this would be a seamless transition. Seeing though I have kind of a numbers background and I've been exposed to some of this data at Wake, and it seems like they're kind of valuing the same types of things. So I could definitely see myself like maybe it might be too early to see exactly what teams are going to be in the mix, but I could definitely see some myself being a good fit for a certain few of those organizations.
And that's kind of like an interesting thing you were talking about because it makes sense. I mean, if I'm sure that probably all teams are now more analytical than not, but obviously some are way more than others.
Oh,
So I
absolutely.
guess like it makes sense of you know what you're doing with the numbers, you kind of understand, what those mean per se, I guess, instead of just going out there and, hitting, like, you know what I mean? Just going out there and just throwing.
Oh,
It
right.
kind of it kind of makes sense that, it's an easy transition. You go straight in. They say, here's this, this, and this. You're like, yeah, I already know what this is. And then boom.
Yeah, no, it just makes it easy and like also, I mean, baseball is a language. Talking these different
Definitely.
numbers, whether it's spin direction, spin axis, induced vertical break, spin efficiency, all these different things, and there's different ways to describe pitches, right? And the different characteristics of the pitch. So to be able to get on, hop on some calls, and I'm a guy that understands all that, so it's cool being able to kind of spit back and forth and really get into the nitty gritty of these pitching metrics. So it's pretty cool.
That's kind of interesting because from a fan perspective, right? You just see like a slider on TV, a curveball, whatever, and you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
right.
that's slider, curveball. And
Yeah,
then probably from your perspective, it's like a completely different thing. While it's the same pitch, but it just acts differently than someone else's slider or curveball, and you're like, oh, look at this.
yeah. No, it is kind of funny. I mean, I've always been a big baseball fan, but you're right. Like it just kind of changed the way that I'm looking at, like I'm watching the game, like even the watching the playoffs, right? Seeing some guys pitches, it's like I can kind of see like I can kind of make up the metrics in my head of what they look like, which is it's kind of weird, but I can it definitely has changed knowing these metrics. It's kind of changed the way it like altered my view a little bit of the game, but it's been awesome.
Yeah, and it's definitely all to your advantage too if you understand it.
Yeah, right.
Should we get into the rapid fire ones? We talked a lot about numbers these past couple of minutes.
Let's do it.
All right, Ryan, we ask everybody, and it's very split. I feel like it's a big baseball topic. Are you Team Rawlings or Team Wilson?
Ooh, that's a hot one. Honestly, I've gone both ways in the past. I had a shortstop's glove a little bit ago that was Rawlings, but here at Wake we're Wilson, so I'm gonna go Team Wilson for now.
Wilson. All right. Here's another one for you. This has not been close. Are you a fan of like Mexican food?
Yeah, big
Okay.
fan.
Are you Qdoba or Chipotle?
Oh, I'm going Qdoba.
Whoa!
Hot take. Hot
That's
take.
okay.
Let
I
me
respect
explain.
it.
Let me explain. Let me explain.
Okay.
The queso is far superior. I just have
Agreed.
to say, I'm a queso guy. I might be the biggest queso guy you've ever met, and that's a deal breaker for me. I'm going for the queso over anything else. That's for sure.
You know what? That's a fair answer because I've also always thought the same thing. I'm like, I like Chipotle a lot, and I don't know necessarily if I would choose Qdoba over, but I get Qdoba because I know the queso is a lot better.
Yeah, that's true, and it's free. So if you're balling
Yeah,
on a
it
budget,
gets added. Yeah.
you can get queso on top, and yeah, it's legit.
So I believe that it is.
It went a
I
10.
think it's 10-2. I want to
Yeah.
say 10-2. You and our buddy Jake Hoover are the only
Oh,
two with
I mean,
Qdoba.
I'm fine being alone on that. I stand by that. That's something that, I always know people aren't gonna agree with me, but something I feel really passionate about.
Hey, you got it. You know what? There you go. Yeah, if you feel passionate about it. All right, here's another question for you. This is kind of interesting as well. Um, so as a pitcher, who would you want to face in the batter's box, and how would you go about facing them? Could be anybody.
Um, I'd want to face. I mean, being a Boston guy, I want to face David Ortiz. And honestly, I'd love to see him take me deep. Um, honestly, that like just growing up and seeing that guy be so clutch has been unreal, and I'd love to throw a pitch to him that he takes 450. But also, I
Or a nice
think
little hang curveball.
yeah, I
Take
know
a whack.
that's definitely something I wouldn't throw to him. I'd probably just throw him fastballs up in the zone and just see if he can catch up to one. I mean, I'd love to do that. I don't know if he could, but I guess that's something I'll always think about.
Absolutely. Keith, I'm gonna ask it anyway. So we've come up with a new segment on the show to go with our little rapid fire. It's hot takes. Could be about anything. Could be Qdoba over Chipotle or whatever it is. I'll start with mine. I said last week that the 4 worst teams in professional sports are all from Michigan, and I'm gonna go with another hot take right here. Keith, you're gonna be so mad. Derek Jeter, not a Hall of Famer. Simple.
You're out of
Doesn't
your mind.
deserve to be in.
You're out of your damn mind.
No, I agree with the first one. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think all of us, it's funny because when he said that, the guy we had on last week, he's also from Michigan. So he's like, come on.
Second one, I don't know. I mean, there could be a little bit to that, but if you look at the numbers, but I mean, at the end of the day, he won, right? And winning is the most important stat. So,
This
so
is
I,
3,000 hits.
74% of his career hits are singles. 74%.
I don't care. The dude's got 5 rings.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Mine was that I would probably take New Jersey pizza over probably any place except for New York City.
Oof. I don't know. I like that Chicago deep dish.
I've heard it's good. I have never had it, so I gotta.
I had it once and it was unreal. So you got to give it a shot.
I'll give it a shot if I get out there someday.
Well, Ryan, where's the best place to go eat at Wake Forest? If you're having an off day or it's after a game, where's their number one place you're going?
Oh, that's easy. There's this place Putters, and it's a little grill right across from the field, and all the boys get in there and get the prime rib sandwich, and they got the buffalo chips on the side, and they're unbelievable. So that's if I ever want to get right, that's where I'm going.
Straight after practice.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Alrighty, Ryan, I think that wraps us up for us here at the War Room. Guys, thanks for tuning in and listening. You guys can follow us on Spotify and YouTube. Go check us out on TikTok too at
TikTok,
TWR_pod. You can check out the website too at twrpod.com. You can follow the podcast there. You can follow the YouTube episode. You can follow some articles that we've written ourselves along with a couple of our buddies. And guys, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace out.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.